Coming up on today's episode of Parasport Nation, Dr. Erik Groves, the Director of Research and Innovation at the Canadian Sport Institute of Alberta, joined the show. He leads PARAREACH, a new hub that's bringing academia and athlete performance on the para side of sports all together. You won't want to miss it.
Welcome to Parasport Nation with Alex Smyth and Nathan Clement.
Welcome into Parasport Nation. I'm your host, Alex Smyth, as always, joined by co-host Nathan Clement. Nathan, it's good to see you. I know you're comfortable, you're lounging, you got some Lululemon apparel going and rocking because I want to get your thoughts on the new Lululemon official Paralympic kit drop. But before we do that, hello, sir.
How is it going, Alex? This Lululemon stuff brought up some conversation before we were recording here. But I'm going to say I'm a huge fan of the stuff. As someone who, to not be a shock to you or maybe surprised, like often I'm maybe wearing Lululemon sweatpants at the time of recording these episodes, and they're comfy. These ones look fashionable. I like the green. I like the little designs. I like the winter look, and even the big maple leaf really stands out, and it's looking pretty good, Alex. And a cool thing before I give you the space to give your opinion on it. The little braille that they've added to the zippers, to all the designs, is so neat and just really amazing to see.
Yeah, so before I give my thoughts, though, I'll give a bit more of a description. I got some of the highlights from the press release. So there's thermal regulation. The kit is engineered and layered with insulation to just help with the varying temperatures that athletes experience throughout the games. In terms of the inclusivity, it's driven by feedback from Paralympians. The kit includes a wide range of adaptive inclusive designs, including adaptive footwear and seated fit styles, abrasion resistant fabrics, and features like the braille and magnetic zippers. There's the Canadian Pride side of things because they have drawings, they have topographic maps, the bold maple leaf, as you said, and elevated styling. They say it's performance, tailoring the brand and modern silhouettes to be inspired by city style, and has fabrics like merino wool, jacquard, and translucent glide. Now for my thoughts on it. I appreciate all the things that they were working with, how they've done it. I think from a design aspect, I think all the inclusivity features, the braille, the magnetic zippers, the seat fit style, fantastic. I just don't think I've ever liked the look of any of the Lululemon gear. I know, it's been a few Paralympics and Olympics now. I don't know what it is. There was something about the color and tones of reds and blacks and greens that I find them so muted and flat that it just looks big, red, puffy. Like I don't see the elevated styling that they're describing. I don't see the strong silhouette. To me, it just looks very bland and very washed out. Whereas before, you would get more stark contrast. You get more of the white. You get more of the red popping on black, instead of now it's just all red, all black, all green. I want more variety, Nathan. It's just not my style.
I'm going to let the production team retract all those statements. Lululemon, please give us a sponsorship as a program. But I hear where you're going, but like even for like the Paris kit, it had like some really cool, intricate designs. And with Lululemon, which at least I've loved so much, is the way that they've innovated and had that accessibility with a lot of their clothes. As you mentioned before, like that magnet zip is a lifesaver for me. And even like a lot of those designs, like I remember even being in the Village, and what's become my favorite Lululemon piece is that giant red poncho from Paris. At first, everyone's like, this poncho is so big, this poncho is so massive. But when that first rainfall came, man, was that a lifesaver. Man, did it stand out, that bright red. But it has like that kind of flair. It has, at least for me, it has that flair. It has that audacity. It has that kind of statement, and especially like with the giant maple leaf there. It's big, it's bold, and it will stand out. But I tend to disagree with that statement, but it's pretty crazy.
See, I want it to go bolder.
Okay.
I want the contrast to be ramped up. Like that's kind of what I'm saying. It's
Okay.
like, to me, it seems like kind of get washed into it. Maybe it's just the photos that I've seen of it, that it's how the lighting is. But to me, it's like it's red on red on red. You know, I love the silhouetting, great, but it's the same color on top of each other. Add in some like pops of white to really make it stand out, that you can see it from far away. Yes, it's a big maple leaf on the chest of a like a parka, but make it the white on the red, make it the black on the red, you know, or even like what the Bay did in their last run, I think of doing it. They had gold. You know, try something different like that. Like those are the design elements that I'm talking about. As the quality of the brand of Lululemon, they're fantastic. So yes, please do sponsor us. I'm sorry, I'm crapping on your design choices here, but I think just from that aspect, it's like to me, it always leaves a little bit to be desired. But this is from me, the non-athlete side of things, you, the athlete side of things. I think your voice and opinion on it is far more important than mine.
But I think at the end of the day, no one's really coming for our fashion advice. So that's one thing that we can both agree on there. But is there any games gear that you really loved or really stood out to you through like Canada's history, whether it's summer or even winter?
I always loved the winter gear from Vancouver 2010. It had just such iconic, striking gear. This was back when it was, I think, with the Bay, and you know, that was the time when you had the red and white Canada mitts, you know, that formed the maple leaf together. I had a black hoodie that just had the Canada in white. It was a full black hoodie, and you had like the maple leaf beside it. It was clean, simple, but still like highly contrasted, that I just visually and aesthetically really enjoyed. And I had that hoodie for like over a decade. Unfortunately, it shrunk to the point that I had to get rid of it. But those were like those iconic ones that I remember as being some of my favorite looks. What about yourself, Nathan?
I really love that Vancouver 2010 one. I was fortunate enough, as I was one of the torchbearers for the Paralympic relay, and in the bottom right corner of my screen is actually the torch I got to use for it. So I got the Paralympic version of the red mittens, and I know those were like very, very hard to get and very, very hard to find, and they're somewhere like hidden, preserved, and they're such like a beautiful piece. But I really loved. I love the Paris kit. I love the Paris gear, and us as athletes have actually talked about this recently. What we had for the Pan Am Games in 2023 was phenomenal. Like, it was like this burgundy kind of red that really had like a nice subtle touch. We had amazing like fleeces, sweaters. The pants were comfy. I still wear the pants to this day, but like my favorite thing about it was just how like wearable it was in everyday life too. And that one felt like a home run out of the park.
Well, you know, I could be proven wrong. Maybe more photos and stuff will come out, and I'll fall more in love with the design for Milano Cortina. But we got to move on, because we have a really special guest joining us today, Dr. Erik Groves. He's the Director of Research and Innovation at the Canadian Sport Institute of Alberta. He's here to talk about the launch of the new Parasport Research and Accessibility Collaborative Hub, better known as PARAREACH. Here's our conversation with Dr. Groves. Dr. Groves, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So it's a lot of news around this new hub that's being launched in collaboration with all these different entities around parasport research. Can you describe how this hub is going to work?
Yeah, I think to probably answer that question in the best possible way is to maybe back up a little bit and kind of describe how we got to this point. We've at CSI Alberta and through the Canadian Olympic Institute partners, we have been collaborating for a couple years on developing some para equipment. And part of that, it was a bit of an organic interaction with Red Deer Polytechnic. And one of the things that sort of came about through a number of smaller projects and sort of growing into some bigger research grants for equipment development was the observation that between the sports system, where sort of we're interacting, and the Red Deer, practitioners and applied researchers, is there was a bit of a gap in the understanding of what the parasport world kind of entailed. Language, accessibility, the limitations of developing equipment. And one of the things we wanted to try and potentially avoid in the future is taking 2 years to communicate the para-specific environment to applied researchers. And so we wanted to try and figure out a method to try and speed up the way that we can kind of bring in more collaborators into the parasport world who might be in, colleges and polytechnics that don't really have a firm understanding of those things. And then to try and figure, and this particular research project was then developed in order to figure out how can we speed up the knowledge generation, the knowledge sharing, bringing partners together and sort of creating a network. So there isn't so much a specific outcome of this research at this point. The outcome is actually to develop and design. How are we going to work well together and bring two different communities into the same room?
Erik, thank you for joining us. What types of research will exactly be done here? Is it broad, or is there more specific areas that you're going to be looking at with the hub starting out?
Yeah, so I think the kickoff to the hub is really to define and figure out how we're going to connect as a network. Familiar with the sports system, there are a lot of silos. The sports system is a very complex, multi-organizations, a number of different sport partners. And so the goal really is to connect with the Canadian Paralympic Committee, Red Deer Polytechnic, and the COPSIN to kind of bring together, experts from both the sport world and the applied research world. And to be quite frank, I think the goal would be to look into research that has high impact that would test the capabilities of the hub. So, for example, there could be equipment projects, further equipment projects that are very unique and niche within the sport community. But there could also be things like developing video series to upskill and provide, whether it's foundational knowledge to able-bodied practitioners and the able-bodied community who also do maybe work, say, through an institute like our own, provide them with an uplift in awareness and education, and then obviously action that would then support more inclusivity and better outcomes for para athletes.
This is something that me and Nathan talk about a lot, about bridging the gaps within research. And then we have many different guests who are in the fields of academia and trying to combine a passion and knowledge of parasport within the research sectors. Why is now kind of the right time to establish this hub and build these connections from the polytechnics, from the college standpoint, and with the parasport side?
Well, I would say now is the time because it is now. Not to be too simple about that. There have been many attempts to bridge applied, the practitioners within sport and sport federations with colleges and polytechnics. I've been involved directly and, indirectly through the Canadian Paralympic Committee in various projects to uplift, pieces of equipment and supporting that. But I think what was sort of observed in this organic interaction with the Red Deer Polytechnic team that we've been working with is really identifying that the silos within the sporting community are really a barrier to enhancing that knowledge. So I would say it's less about, now is a time. I would have loved for this to have been observed and sort of identified years ago. But this is where we are now, and sort of putting action to our the collaborative goals that I think between Red Deer, Polytechnics, this Canadian Sport Institute network, as well as and the Canadian Paralympic Committee's sort of new strategic objectives, that we can kind of try and really, let's try and work on this and see how we can break down the silos in between, both in the sporting system as well as between the sports system and applied researchers.
You've emphasized a two-way knowledge exchange. How would that look on a day-to-day between researchers, coaches, and even the athletes?
Yeah, that's a brilliant question. I think, that would be the goal of this research framework, is how do we actually enhance and uplift those things? So I think the first thing would be awareness for all practitioners. So it's not just, sports scientists who work directly with sports in the the para-athletic world. It would be to how do we mobilize that knowledge for able practitioners who work on the Olympic, stream of athletes, is how do we bring para-specific knowledge to those practitioners? Having more people ideating on solutions to challenges is better than less, but we need a way to bring that information into a hub. So I think from practitioners working, connecting athletes, sports scientists, coaches, and the high performance teams to the network, and precisely how we're going to do that, I would be remiss to say that we have that decided upon right now, but it's really leaning into connecting what the observed challenges are within the communities to researchers that potentially could support and solve those things. So that exactly how that will roll out, but it's to create a sort of a network and a funnel to move information and understanding and or lack of understanding, sort of those gaps that we're trying to overcome, into a central knowledge repository. And whether that's people, probably going to involve technology to create relationships across. And one of the big things is there are a lot of sport organizations, and there are also like 700, colleges and polytechnics across this country. I've interacted with 2 or 3 of them. And so there is more to be accessed in this space and in this world. So yeah, I think really we got to, focus on how we're going to do that. And I'd like to have that answer for you today, but the goal of this project is to figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and we know this is just a starting point of hopefully a very impactful partnership and hub that can be an example across the country, and then maybe down the road also internationally. I'm curious for yourself, like, why is Alberta kind of being the starting point? We have Red Deer Polytechnic, we have CSI Alberta. Like, what does it mean to be starting in Alberta with this hub, and Red Deer Polytechnic with CSI Alberta?
Yeah, I think it comes from 2 aspects. The first is specifically at CSI Alberta, one of our strategic pillars within our organization is to uplift support for Paralympic and para-athletes in the sporting community. That would go with upskilling practitioners, accessibility within our own facility, making sure that we're meeting the needs and requirements for para-athletes. We've engaged significantly with para-athletes in our own community, one-on-one coffee chats, trying to figure out where we can improve the services that we provide to our para-athletes. But I think the initiation of some of this stuff internally was connecting by chance with the SimTac program at Red Deer Polytechnic and initiating an organic conversation. And they're like, oh, we can solve some of these questions. Oh, hey, we have questions that we need answers to. So that was, I think it came out of an organic just chance meeting, and we've really, leaned into it in a fairly significant way. And, our collaborators at Red Deer have been phenomenal. Like, they are so interested and so keen to try and support the network. And I think from that, we've kind of broadened out the engagement, including the Canadian Paralympic Committee. That was like a real key element of this. It's not meant to be a relationship specifically between CSI Alberta and Red Deer Polytechnic. We want sort of the beneficiaries of our inputs and our efforts in this area to be all para athletes, and so, our CEO and president, Gary Davies, has really leaned into this with meeting with the presidents of institutes across the country. Clearly, our engagement at the CPC level has been, absolutely, required and supported, so that we can actually hopefully also align the goals here with the goals of the Canadian Paralympic Committee. And without that alignment, it makes it more challenging. And so it's really trying to bring people together and break down these silos. And it's been just a slow, organic level. And through some of those strategic initiatives that we started, 3, 4, 5 years ago internally to really enhance and uplift our work in this area. That's a bit of the genesis, but our absolute goal is to support para sport athletes, and in any way that we can. So
having a project like this, especially as a Paralympic athlete in a sport that requires a lot of adaptive equipment, it means the world to us athletes. And that one thing that we always talk about in different generations of Paralympic athletes is leaving that future better for the next generation. And it's really amazing just having this kind of framework to build and connect and really help current athletes, but also that next generation of youth, people coming into the sports world. And for yourself, Erik, since you've gotten involved in this project, is there, and I know it's in its early days, is there anything that you take the most pride in being a part of this?
Honestly, I think what you just said is what I take the most pride in. There are projects that we will do that might answer and solve an equipment challenge for 3 or 4 athletes. That is maybe a gold medal potential. That is maybe a here and the now. But I think really where I, take pride is leaving a legacy and the system being the beneficiary of processes, knowledge mobilization, engagement with sports. For me, and again, early days, but, that really is our high level motivation here is, to be fair, a siloed system really struggles in knowledge mobilization. We create equipment, we solve a thing. There are many para athletes who are solving their, in their garage, tinkering with their own equipment. Is how do we mobilize athlete knowledge and what they've been tinkering with to put that into a systemic thing to help the next generation? So this isn't just bring in specific researchers who may not have had any experience in a para world to really learn and understand and create a repository of knowledge. And, the thing that we often lean into, whilst, some of the work that we do is definitely gold medal potential, is what does it look like for the next generation? And, can we make equipment that is more comfortable, less prone for injury? There are many stories in this world about malfitting equipment and athletes. I don't really want to do this. This is really uncomfortable. And we need to try and eliminate that, experience for young athletes.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is certainly a conversation we've had many times. 3D printing has been game-changing for a lot of these para-athletes and making such specific equipment. I want to end the conversation on this question, though. Looking forward 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, what would be the one thing that if you kind of reach this goal or milestone, you would view this hub, this collaboration as a success?
So one of the objectives of the initiation of this research, this project and this hub is to actually identify solutions to the longevity of it. We are initiating and we're going to be bringing researchers and collaborators together We have funding for 3 years to kind of get this off the ground and connect these, all of the experienced, researchers and parasport world together. I think identifying how we fund and continue this is going to be sort of really the second objective. So getting it together and then sort of moving forward. If we could sustain this for 10 to 15 years in and of itself, that is going to be, the success of it. And, for sure, there needs to be objectives around how we collate knowledge, how we bring information together, how we share that back out. But ensuring the success long term, financially, this is startup funding from the Tri-Council to support this. But we're going to have to maintain this going forward, and these things probably won't run on volunteer alone. It needs to be a strategic objective, and so we're going to have to figure that out. But if we can have a legacy that this can last for 10 to 15 years or longer, that would be absolutely unbelievable, and hopefully provide benefits to elite as well as up and coming athletes in this space.
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly an exciting time, and we appreciate you taking the time to kind of fill us in on this new partnership and this hub. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Wonderful to chat.
And that was our conversation with Dr. Erik Groves with PARAREACH. Nathan, lots to dissect within this conversation. I think it's such a great initiative, and to hear him talk about like trying to break down or bridge those silos within sport, and specifically parasport, is so key, and something that we have both seen from different perspectives.
Exactly, and just that silo and how everyone's so not like out of their own reasons, but we all get lost in our own little spaces. And if there's a platform that you can have that cross kind of integration, that conversation, that's going to uplift so many athletes today, but also, as Dr. Erik mentioned, in the future as well. And it's a really exciting time. Like, I know just for me, being in Vancouver and having access to UBC, and we've had my coach Matt Fliss on in the past, and just how I was his introduction into parasport. Now he was curious. Now he wants to learn more, and just the adaptations that he's done for me, but just helping him when he first got involved, or helping someone who's working with a para athlete for the first time, or just working with a program that could even help on that Olympic side, is major and massive. Just to have a one-stop kind of shop where you can pass that information off, and it's going in that right direction. And what Red Deer Polytechnic and what CSI Alberta is doing is just really exciting to see, and I just can't wait to see where this goes in the years to come.
Absolutely. It's truly an exciting time. But it's also an exciting time on this show because I'm going to be putting you to the test in the latest edition of Blind Power Rankings.
Blind Power Rankings.
So, Nathan, this time, the Blind Power Rankings are all going to revolve around non-Paralympic sports. Are you ready?
I'm ready to burn more bridges. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to give you sports one at a time. You're ranking them 1 through 5, 1 being the best, 5 being the worst. Let's start off with para bobsled.
Ooh, this is the one I want to try like the most. I'm curious. I'm interested in. I really want to dive in here. So I'm being bold. I am being assertive with this list. I'm putting para bobsled at 1.
Wow, the one spot off the top. Next up, parasurfing.
Parasurfing. Now, as someone with a balance disability, I would not. It would be a bit of a learning curve for me, but this is another sport that's really cool. We have Tyler Turner, so many other Paralympic athletes have gotten into this, and just seeing some of their locations and destinations, I want to put that at 3.
At 3, 1 and 3 slot locked up. Next up, Showdown. Remember, we had the Sheffield Strikers on the program, friends of the program.
It's a cool sport. I'm I'm going to put it at 4.
Okay, 1, 3, and 4. Next up, blind hockey.
I want to play. I've been seeing a lot of blind hockey stuff on the internet, like having Sidney Crosby shoot, having Reinhardt shoot. I would love to try it, play it, and see it in person. As someone who hasn't seen it in person yet, I know you've covered games, you've called games, but it's definitely something that I love. I'm fascinated about it. We have so many friends of the program that are in blind hockey, so I'm going to put it at 2.
Okay, so you got so far para bobsled, you got blind hockey, para surfing, then showdown, and your number 5 slot for a non-Paralympic sport, para arm wrestling.
Oh, this is your sport. This is yours, and in the heart of hearts is always going to be number 1. It is something I would love to dive into, learn more. If there's any para arm wrestlers listening, watching, we would love to get you on the program. Sadly, just how the cookies crumbled, it's 5, but no, deep down, all these sports are number 1 in our hearts.
No, stop trying to make up for it after the fact you clearly hate para arm wrestling. That's it. We're never going to have someone on the program now because you bashed this sport. So, unfortunately, Nathan, before we dig ourselves any deeper of a hole, let's wrap things there. Thank you at home, watching and listening, and please come on our program if you're a para arm wrestler. Don't listen to Nathan, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to Parasport Nation. Like and subscribe to the channel to follow us now.